UFC 281 full card predictions and the betting breakdown brought to you by MyBookie. Main event, Israel Adesanya versus Alex Pereira. We have an excellent card. I'm going to talk about each of the matchups and give you guys my predictions. Make sure you guys smash the like button if you haven't. If you're new, subscribe to the channel. Turn those post notifications on and make sure to share the video as well. Let's jump right into it. First fight of the night, Carlos Ulberg versus Nikolai Negumereanu. I'm going to be riding with Carlos Ulberg to win. He definitely has the kickboxing advantage. The range, interestingly enough, as far as their reaches goes, 1 inch favors Negumereanu. Granted, he's not like this technical kickboxer from distance. A lot more of a pressure boxing style. Does have wrestling in the back pocket. Carlos Ulberg, I think the defensive wrestling is going to be there. I think he's going to be making leaps and bounds each time we see him in the octagon. You look at the performance against Tafon Chukwi, I think he's trying, or at least starting to, find that real flow in mixed martial arts. Early run, I mean, he lost to, kind of like the guy that just gives people weird fights in Zechiku. And then you look, he has that Fabio Charant matchup with what, it wasn't a great fight. Ulberg ultimately put it on Chukwi, dropped him pretty much with like a wide jab. Negumereanu, though, I do respect his style. The high guard is up. He closes distance fairly well. I think Ulberg will do a good job of defending the clinch and takedown attempts by Negumereanu. I think he will snipe him from range and find success. You know what? I'm going to ride with Ulberg to actually knock Negumereanu out. I think this is the signature win for Ulberg, and I really expect him to continuously climb the rankings. I see him as a real prospect, man. The potential is definitely there, and I think he's got it over Nikolai Negumereanu. So I'm going to ride with Ulberg by KO. Odds are near even. -125 for Carlos Ulberg. You're sitting at +105 for Nick Negumereanu. I'm riding with Carlos Ulberg to get the win. Let's go. First fight of the night is a damn good one. City kickboxing pick in the first one. Next matchup, it's Julio Arce versus Montel Jackson. I'm going to be picking Montel Jackson. I have to go with the guy who I think has the better wrestling, but also the fact he's 3 inches taller and has a 5.5 inch reach advantage and a competent kickboxing game. I like the slickness of Julio Arce. Both guys are also southpaws, which I like this southpaw versus southpaw matchup a lot, but I think it could limit the effectiveness of Arce's striking. Also, Arce, I'm not saying he isn't a finisher, but he's not this dynamite puncher, and I don't really see him flatlining Montel Jackson. I think Jackson will fight okay from distance, and I think he does have the athleticism advantage. I think he gets inside on Julio Arce. I think he probably controls him a bit against the cage, works for takedowns, and I'm going to pick Montel Jackson to take it by a decision here against Arce. I feel like Arce's a good fighter. He's got quality kickboxing. You know, he was good over at featherweight, drops to bantamweight, beat Willie Cat in the last one, and Willie Cat's turned out to be pretty damn good. But ultimately with Arce, I don't see the devastating power. And I also think this matchup with a guy like Montel Quick Jackson, to be honest, he's got some pretty quick hands. I think on the feet, he'll look solid, but the wrestling is a big difference maker. I think he controls Arce, especially in the clinch. And I think Montel Jackson wins this fight on the cards by a decision. As far as the lines for this fight, Montel Jackson is a fair size favorite. He's sitting around -220. Arce sitting at that +170 tag. I am riding with Montel Jackson. I don't think Arce is like the worst underdog ever, but ultimately it's not for me on this card. I'm riding Montel by a decision to win this bout in the bantamweight division. Next matchup on the card, Mike Trizano versus Seungwoo Choi. I'm going to be picking Mike Trizano. Seungwoo Choi is not all that great. I feel like the hype was there, you know, and then he dropped 2 fights in a row. Granted, the Caceres one was a matchup where he looked to almost have the win, then ultimately, you know, doesn't get the finish because of the illegal strike. Mike Trizano on the other side just lost to Lucas Almeida, but he still had success in that fight. We've seen Seungwoo Choi dropped with that lead hook. I think Mike Trizano has some power in that lead hook that he could drop a Seungwoo Choi. Also, Choi gets a little bit reckless to me. I don't think he has great defense. I think Mike Trizano is going to put a high amount of pressure on him, and he is at a reach disadvantage by 3.5 inches. For that reason, I expect him to try to get inside, make this a little bit of a scrap. I think if he can get Seungwoo Choi into a bit of a brawl, overall, he could find himself pretty damn successful here. I'm going to go Mike Trizano to win, and I'm actually thinking KO TKO. I think Choi is just too hittable, and I think a knockout might be there. I mean, Choi, he fights well from distance, but it's also his willingness to engage. I do think gets him caught with a guy with a tight kickboxing style, Tiger Schulman zone, Mike Trizano. I'm picking him to win this fight, and I do think he gets the KO TKO here. Fun fight, man. I'm excited as hell for this matchup, actually. I think it's a striker's delight. Looking at the odds, Trizano around plus 130, whereas Seungwoo Choi is in that minus 165 range. I'm going with the underdog, Mike Trizano, for the upset. At the end of the day, 10-5 record, too, for Seungwoo Choi. I just don't feel like he's all that top tier. He looks pretty good, I feel like, from distance, and then on paper he looks solid. But when you see the in-betweens, I think there's some technical mistakes and some where I definitely think a guy like Mike Trizano could capitalize on. We'll go Trizano, and I am going to say he gets it done by stoppage here. Next fight on the card is Karolina Kowalkiewicz and Silvana Gomez Juarez. I'm going to ride with Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Silvana Gomez Juarez does have clearly a boxing advantage. She has a quality striking game, but her submission defense is extremely subpar. She's 37. She's never been a contender. She's lost to mid-tier competition in the UFC. Lupita Godinez, I guess I'm not going to call her super mid. She's like middle of the pack. Vanessa Demopoulos armbarring you. Yes, she dropped Demopoulos, but she still got subbed on the ground. There's a hole in that submission defense for Gomez Juarez. She beats Na Liang. What does that mean? On the other side, Karolina Kowalkiewicz is a former title challenger. She was once right there. I mean, she beat Rose Namajunas. Karolina's last win, she beat Felice Herrig. She choked her out, rear naked choke. I think that Karolina looks to get this fight to the floor. That's where she'll shine. She needs to fight on the floor. Striking, she could get herself into a bit of trouble. We've seen Karolina Kowalkiewicz knocked out by Jessica Andrade. That's the only knockout loss. I don't think she's chinny. I'm going to say Kowalkiewicz could take some big punches by a Silvana Gomez Juarez. And if they go to the floor, I think Gomez Juarez is a fish out of water, and she's getting choked out. I'll say win by submission. Kind of Mystic Macking it, saying it's going to be a rear naked choke, but definitely submission sided for Karolina Kowalkiewicz. I see the grappling advantage as, you know, just a clear path to victory, really. So I expect her to look to get this fight to the mat, and I think she'll succeed there. Kowalkiewicz, even money for her and Silvana Gomez Juarez, minus 110 on both sides. You got to love the even Stevens money. And it is a competitive fight. Both girls 37. Kowalkiewicz definitely has a lot better competition level as far as who she's fought. And she was at the pinnacle of the sport, whereas Gomez Juarez, late entrance into the UFC, scrappy girl, but I think she's going to have trouble with the ground skill set of Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Let's keep running up the card. Ottoman Azaitar and Matt Frivola. I'm going to be picking Ottoman Azaitar to knock Matt Frivola out. I think he might do it in the first round. Azaitar throws bombs. He has devastating power in his hooks, really nice overhands. Frivola also will bang inside, mix up overhands, scrap a little bit. And I mean, in his last fight, you think that he'd be gun shy after the Terrence McKinney 7-second knockout loss. He's banging in the last matchup with Genaro Valdez, who was 10-0 at the time. Granted, you know, hadn't fought that top-tier competition, and Frivola showed him a different level. Frivola's a well-rounded guy, but I just think Ottoman Azaitar is that undefeated prospect to watch. 13-0 in the lightweight division, serious knockout power, physically strong guy. As far as the physicality, 5'8" for Ottoman, 5'9" for Frivola. Reach is identical. I think the power goes Ottoman. Fight IQ might also go Ottoman. I think Frivola bangs a little bit too much sometimes. I don't think it's going to get him slept here. I think he's getting knocked out in the first 2 rounds. We'll go Ottoman Azaitar to move to 14-0 and win via knockout. And Azaitar is sitting at plus money. You can find him at plus 120. He's an underdog here. Frivola sitting around that minus 120 range. I like Ottoman Azaitar's chances. I think he can pull this one off. I'm going with underdog Ottoman Azaitar. I don't think he should be an underdog here. He's 13-0. He's a real prospect. We're going to find out because Frivola's game for sure. And I mean, you can't write him off after that Terrence McKinney knockout, but I just think Azaitar finds openings on the free. He kind of causes Frivola to bang a bit, and I think Frivola gets caught out of position, overthrowing shots, and he's getting flatlined. Azaitar by KO, and hopefully there's no issues with people bringing bags in for him or him sneaking out of hotel rooms and shit. Next fight on the card. This is a good one. Andre Petroski, Wellington Turman. I know people say, what? This is a good fight? I think it's a good matchup because you have two guys that are good grapplers. Wellington Turman, more jiu-jitsu grappling. Andre Petroski, more of a bulldozer wrestler. I'm going to pick Andre Petroski. I like the wrestling. I think he controls where the fight goes. Wellington Turman does have a very good backpack, and he's got sneaky submissions, man. I mean, he can lock things up. He's good on the floor for sure. He has a mid stand-up game at best. Petroski's not great in the stand-up either. Very awkward and kind of developing on both sides. But let's be honest. Who has more ability to hurt the other person if they were striking? You just give them boxing gloves and they're a bok. I'm saying Petroski's knocking them out in a boxing match. I think in the cage, Petroski can stop takedown attempts from Turman. I don't think he's going to get the backpack climbed on him. I think he can hurt him with punches. I think definitely overhand shots could land for Andre Petroski. And you can't doubt the submission skills of Petroski either. I'm going to ride with Andre Petroski to win. Method of victory, I'm kind of thinking might be club and sub. I could see him hurting Turman with a big shot and then choking him out. Yeah, I'm going to ride with Petroski. I think he can beat Turman. I know Turman's got a ton of pro experience at just 26. But I think Petroski's pretty decent, man. Turman just, even though he's got a lot of pro experience, he's a young guy. Nothing jumps out the page as far as, I don't want to diss him, but anything special. Nothing is like, wow, that guy does this really well. He's young prospect, does this amazingly. He's got, nearly, 24 fights. This will be the 24th one. I just am not super impressed by Turman. I'm not saying Petroski's the next world champion, but I think he has a power advantage, wrestling advantage, and I do think he's got the submission skill set to match with a Wellington Turman. I got to ride with Andre Petroski to get the knockout. Watch out for that overhand because he's got some money overhands. That's the shot. And I think he could land one, hurt Turman, who just, is kind of just developing as far as his striking goes. Doesn't seem to have a great stand-up game. Purely more of that jiu-jitsu style. And I just don't see the jiu-jitsu takedowns getting to the wrestler Petroski here. As far as the odds, Petroski's a pretty big favorite. Around minus 215. Turman sitting around plus 165. I am riding with Andre Petroski to get himself the win. I think club and sub. I think club and sub could be that method of victory. Next one. Erin Blanchfield and Molly McCann. Molly Meatballs. Yeah, I'm going to go against the grain and pick Molly McCann. I watched Erin Blanchfield's last fight, and I'm like, damn, she's really upright with her kickboxing. She's not this crazy good wrestler. She has good takedowns and control from the top. I'm not saying she isn't a good wrestler, but she's not Khabib Nurmagomedov of the fucking women's weight classes. But the odds would have you thinking she's, I don't know, fucking Aaron Nurmagomedov or some shit, Aaron Chimaev. She's sitting at minus, 435? Molly McCann at plus 300? If you look at punching power, it favors Molly. Striking, Molly's way better. She has like a bit of a low stance, which she fights in, a deep stance. She's throwing powerful shots. She's definitely starting to find her flow in the stand-up game. Molly McCann, I think, might be coming into the prime. Dangerous elbows, some of the nastiest knockouts in women's MMA as of late, whereas Erin Blanchfield, it's control from the top, winning a grinding decision. I think Molly McCann can fend off takedowns. I think she's going to match the physical strength of Blanchfield. I think the power advantage is crazy towards the side of McCann. And I think Molly McCann might shock everyone and get a knockout, especially with the crowd in attendance. If this was at the Apex, it's a smaller cage. Maybe I pick Blanchfield to just hold her against the cage for freaking 15 minutes. But with the crowd, with the 30-foot octagon, with all these factors, with Molly just seeming to live up to the moment. And I mean, she's kind of got the limelight shined on her being with Paddy Pimblett. I think she's kind of evolving, but also like turning into a girl to watch. I'm going to ride with Molly McCann to get the KO, man. I'm just not overly impressed with Blanchfield's abilities on the striking department and even with the takedown. She's a good wrestler, and if she gets on top, she controls well, and I was real high on her when I saw her beat up Miranda Maverick, but I don't think Miranda Maverick is all that top tier. I think Erin is a good young prospect, but she's only 23. Molly is in the prime of primes, and ultimately it's like now or never as far as contendership. And I think Molly McCann can do it. I'm going to say she's getting the win. I'm going KO, Molly Meatball McCann to beat Erin Blanchfield. She might have to overcome some adversity with takedown attempts. I think she'll find her way back up and she'll knock Blanchfield out in the feet. And as I said, odds are crazy wide. Plus 300 money for Molly Meatballs. I'm riding with her to get the win. Upset over Erin Blanchfield in New York too. Let's go. Dominic Reyes versus Ryan Spann. Reyes has been out for so long. That last fight was a year and a half ago. Prochazka devastates him. The Devastator was devastated after getting destroyed by Yuri Prochazka. But I am picking him to win this fight. This is the man that nearly beat Jon Jones. He's a quality fighter, good southpaw, pretty quick with his striking, good straight left hand down the line, good wrestling base that he can rely on. Ryan Spann he's a good fighter, but he's Mr. Inconsistency. It's one on, one off. One on, one off. I'm not going to call him chinny, but he doesn't have the steel chin. I think Reyes can find the dome and put him down. I think Reyes could follow up with ground and pound and stop him. I'm kind of thinking knockdown, which leads to a ground and pound TKO favoring Dominic Reyes. Obviously, you know, the bad knockout losses in the past two, it's a lot to come back from. But I believe he can do such a thing, especially in a matchup where I think he's significantly favored. I'm picking Dominic Reyes to bounce back. Also note he's training with Glover Teixeira. He's training with Alex Pereira. I do think it could be evolving the game and mentally getting him ready and back in that prime form. And I think Dominic Reyes at his best is still a contender. He beats a guy like Ryan Spann. Even though Ryan Spann is like a freakishly huge light heavyweight, Reyes has done well with that in the past, being Jon Jones. I mean, the guy that a lot of people felt beat Jon Jones, lost a decision ultimately, but he was right there. Dominic Reyes for the win. I'm saying TKO, and I think he's got the mojo back after this one. As far as the odds, around minus 235, Dominic Reyes, Ryan Spann in that plus 190 range. I'd understand hesitancy to wanting to throw down on Reyes just because he's looked bad in the last two, been out for a while. But also, let's note this. He lost to the two top-tier guys. I mean, Jan Blachowicz, incredible striker, top 3 contender, former champion. Yuri Prochazka, current champion, most dangerous and violent guy in the light heavyweight division, maybe that we've fucking ever seen. Dominic Reyes is still there, and I think he's going to prove a point on Saturday beating up Ryan Spann. And I think it's Reyes, and it's not even close. Beat down. Next fight brings us to the featured prelim. Renato Moicano and Brad Riddell. I think Brad Riddell can win this one. Moicano doesn't have the superb wrestling where I see him threatening Riddell with the takedowns. He does have really good jiu-jitsu. As far as his stand-up and upright Muay Thai striking style, but I think Riddell can find home to shots fairly well. Common opponent, Fiziev. You saw Fiziev murder Moicano. You saw Fiziev, I mean, I guess he kind of murdered Riddell, but it took a bit longer. It was a fight while it lasted, whereas Moicano just got clean clocked in the first round. I like Moicano's toughness. He's extremely durable. But ultimately, I think Brad Riddell will land the more effective strikes. He'll close distance. He'll out-kickbox him, avoid grappling, and I think he could win. Ultimately, neither one of these guys are like my, favorite bets of the night or even just favorite fighters to be like, yeah, bro, it's the guy I want to back with supreme confidence. But I do think Brad Riddell can win it. Not an easy out against Moicano, but I'll ride the Brad Riddell side to get the win over Renato. I do think he can beat him on the cards here. Moicano is the slight favorite around minus 125. Riddell sitting at that near plus 110 range. I like the slight underdog, Brad Riddell. I'll say he gets it done by a decision. I do think the takedown defense will be there. I just don't see Moicano with the wrestling chops to be able to just absolutely destroy Riddell. I know he got beaten bad by Jalen Turner in the last one, but I don't think it's a rinse and repeat of that. Brad Riddell's a pretty damn game lightweight. I think he proves a point beating Moicano. And I will say he gets it done. I'm going to say decision, though. Interesting matchup in the featured prelim, though. Next fight brings us to the main card. If you guys have not yet, make sure you smash the hell out of that like button. And if you're new, subscribe. Dan Hooker versus Claudio Puelles. I'm going with Dan Hooker, guys. Looking at the Claudio Puelles tape, he has horrific wrestling. Some of the worst technical wrestling I've seen that actually somehow works in the octagon. He's shooting double legs, very gi jiu-jitsu style. He doesn't have that power double leg, doesn't have great trips against the cage. Dan Hooker's known for good takedown defense. Obviously, he had a terrible fight with Makhachev where he got murdered, but we just saw how fucking good Makhachev is. Yes, Dan Hooker lost to Arnold Allen at featherweight. Arnold Allen might be the biggest threat to Alexander Volkanovski in the featherweight division. Dan Hooker is a very tricky out, especially a limited guy like Puelles, where he has, in my opinion, just one advantage in this fight: Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. His striking is subpar. I think Dan Hooker can touch him up on the feet. I think Dan Hooker can defend the takedowns. And I think Dan Hooker is going to get himself a stoppage. He has not had a knockout win for some time, and I think he's due for one. And I think this is the opponent he could sleep. Wouldn't shock me if Puelles does one of those sloppy shots for a takedown and he gets kneed in the face and put out here. I'm going Dan Hooker. I'm going to say he gets the KO. More technical striking, quality takedown defense, works fairly well in the clinch, and I think will avoid stupid positions on the floor. Puelles, ultimately, if he was to win this fight, it might need to be a heel hook. He needs to pull off some type of crazy submission, probably using the legs to the advantage. The leg submissions maybe is a key to victory for Puelles, but I just think Dan Hooker beats him everywhere else, and I think he's going to prove a point in this fight and bounce back. Also note, Puelles is a southpaw. A subpar southpaw, I think, is a sucker for a straight right down the center line. I think Dan Hooker is beating up Claudio Puelles here, and I think he gets the KO. As far as the odds here, Dan Hooker -175, Claudio Puelles at +140, riding with Dan Hooker to get himself the victory in this matchup. Good fight. Exciting matchup. I'm super excited to see it. Dan Hooker, I think, bounces back with a vengeance here. Next fight on the card, Frankie Edgar versus Chris Gutierrez. No, Frankie. No, Frankie. No, no, no. I'm picking Chris Gutierrez. I tried so hard to convince myself to pick Frankie, but ultimately the only way he can win is consistently timing takedowns and controlling from the top. He's not going to knock Gutierrez out. He can't match him in the striking. Frankie's also, bro, he's showing signs of gassing out. He doesn't have the prime stamina. He doesn't have the prime technical abilities in the striking. He doesn't have the prime accuracy, the prime timing. He's not prime time Frankie anymore. This is the former lightweight champion fighting at 135 against a kid on the come up. Chris Gutierrez can kick box extremely well. He has awesome low kicks. He has awesome kicks overall. Good strikes from distance. A guy that's very comfortable being on his bicycle. Takedowns could be a factor, and I do think Edgar can land takedowns, but what can he do from the top? Recently, all I've seen what he's doing from the top, he's just going to control. He's just going to hold. He's not going to be able to get much effective offense. I just don't think he's there anymore. 2 straight knockout losses. Only win at bantamweight is a controversial decision. He lost to Pedro Munoz. He got the decision, though. I think Chris Gutierrez is sleeping him. I'm going to go Gutierrez by KO. I'm thinking second or third round. He puts him out, and don't be surprised if it's a high kick. I think Gutierrez with a signature win. 10-year age difference. This is Frankie, who said he's retiring after this one. That little extra push that you need to win won't be there when you know it's over after this. Whereas Gutierrez wants to be a contender. He knows he beats Frankie Edgar. You're looking at a ranked opponent next. You're looking at changing your life. We're going with Chris Gutierrez. He's just going to have more here. I'm not going with old man Frankie in this one, unfortunately, because Frankie's the OG of OGs, former champ. But unfortunately, it's the fight game, baby. -217, Chris Gutierrez, Frankie Edgar nearing +170. I think Gutierrez wins. I think he gets the KO over Frankie Edgar. And this is the signature win for Chris Gutierrez against the OG Frankie, whose time, sadly, will come to an end on Saturday. I think they could have gave him like an old dude. Like, just give him like a fun fight. Instead, you give him Chris Gutierrez, who just wants to eat him, who wants to, you know, totally take that win as like a legacy win and move himself up the ranks. And I think he does just that, man. It's a stepping stone fight for Gutierrez, and I think he shines. Let's get to this matchup. Dustin Poirier versus Michael Chandler. I'll guarantee you this is fireworks. If it's not fireworks, it's just not possible it's not fireworks, actually. Ignore it. There's no if. It's going to be potentially the fight of the year. Only gripe, it's not 5 rounds. Why are we not doing 5 rounds? It's only 3. The pick is Dustin Poirier, though. I do think Poirier can get the stoppage on Michael Chandler. Chandler's an incredible wrestler. He doesn't use it. He's more of a brawler boxing style. He comes to scrap on the feet. Dustin Poirier, southpaw. He's got a technical striking game, excellent calf kicks, good punches, really good punch combinations, good jiu-jitsu skills. I don't see Michael Chandler just turning something in his brain and turning into a grinding wrestler. He's going to come to brawl with Dustin Poirier, and it's going to be an incredible fight. One that I think Dustin Poirier weathers an early storm from Michael Chandler, gets him tired, puts it on him, and TKOs him. I think he's stopping him here. I'm going Dustin Poirier. I'm kind of thinking third round knockout. He's going to put Chandler out. I think the chin of Chandler, I don't want to say is glass, but you can put him down. Ferguson put him down. He's been put down in other fights. I think Dustin Poirier stops a tired and worn Michael Chandler. And Dustin Poirier, you know he can walk through fire. And I think he's going to have to walk through fire here because that's just how Michael Chandler fights. He puts it all on you as much as he can early. And I do think he'll get tired later, and Poirier will take advantage. I'm going Poirier, KO, TKO. And shit, he might be the number one contender in the lightweight division because we don't know if that Volk Makhachev fight's actually happening. Dustin Poirier sitting around minus 185. Michael Chandler sitting at about plus 145. Excellent matchup. I cannot fucking wait for this fight. I'm picking Dustin Poirier to get the knockout. What a barn burner. This is going to be such a scrap. The lightweight division is going to be blessed with this matchup. I cannot wait for Saturday. Let's keep running up. Next fight on the card. Carla Esparza versus Zhang Weili. Listen, I'm going with Weili to win. I think she's going to knock Esparza out in the third round. Esparza's got really good wrestling and excellent base, but I mean, if you see Zhang, she's picking up Francis Ngannou. She's extremely strong. She's got good wrestling too. She can match the wrestling defensively of Esparza. Yeah, maybe she's not going to be fucking just grinding her out on the floor, but definitely the stand-up, Weili kills Esparza. The fight with Esparza and Rose Namajunas, in my opinion, is the worst championship fight in the history of mixed martial arts. In my opinion, it's a fucking black eye for the UFC. That fight sucked beyond belief. Worst fight I've maybe ever seen. I don't think Esparza, as far as being champion, is necessarily the best for the UFC marketing train of the strawweight division. Zhang Weili is the one. I think she's going to get an impressive win. I think she's knocking Esparza out. Her striking is vastly superior. She can match the wrestling. This is a champion, in my opinion. And I think Zhang winning this fight, next opponent, it might be Amanda Lemos, who just got a sick knockout over Marina Rodriguez. Rose Namajunas is going to be somewhere in the wings waiting, but I do think she'll need a win because that Esparza fight was so bad. I know she's got 2 wins, though, over Zhang, so that trilogy fight is probably on the horizon at some point. I think Zhang Weili shines in this matchup, knocking Carla Esparza out and becoming, once again, the champion of the women's strawweight division. I can't wait for this matchup. As far as the lines, they're crazy wide. Zhang is minus 400. Esparza at plus 280. I'm still picking Zhang Weili with a lot of confidence, but yeah, that's a crazy wide line. It's just that Esparza, I don't think can even match her at all in the striking. I think she's going to get worked, guys. I think she's going to get beaten down by Zhang Weili. Picked apart with strikes. The takedowns will be defended, and Zhang will be, and new, and once again, champion of the world. Good co-main event. Oh, shit. Let's get to it. Main event of the evening. Make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe if you're new to the channel. Also, Fight Day, full card, live fight companion. So make sure you tune in to the show as UFC 281's going down. Let's talk it. Israel Adesanya, Alex Pereira. My pick is going to be Israel Adesanya. I think Izzy can do this. I went back and rewatched both of the kickboxing fights, and I got to say, Pereira has a dynamite lead hook, and if he can find that with the small gloves, it could be a huge difference maker. Ultimately, I think Adesanya has improved a lot since their early kickboxing bouts, but even in that kickboxing rematch, Israel Adesanya was finding shots, having success, standing 8 count for Alex Pereira. He was getting touched up. Ultimately, Adesanya got slept bad. Both of those fights were scheduled 3-rounders. Adesanya lost the first one decision, knocked out in the rematch. Now we have the trilogy in mixed martial arts. Adesanya is 23-1 in MMA. I think that cage experience is a factor. Alex Pereira is a bullying style of striker. He's going to put good pressure on you, rip you with huge punches. He's incredibly durable. I think Adesanya has a big movement advantage here. I think he can kind of get on that bicycle, stay away from Pereira. I think Pereira is going to look to press on him and land dynamite shots. I'll tell you this. Adesanya could definitely go out there and win a decision, but the way Pereira is going to fight is going to be bulldozer style. Come forward and let's go to war. I think Adesanya can snipe him and get revenge by knockout. I'm going Israel Adesanya 3rd round KO over Alex Pereira. Pereira is a monster. But Israel Adesanya is 23-1 in mixed martial arts. There's a reason he's been at the top of the sport so damn long. If he so chooses to, I do think he could take down Pereira with wrestling. I do think he could control him in the clinch from the close range. Yes, avoid the Thai plum though, because Pereira is very dangerous with, more of your traditional striking clinches. But as far as using the wrestling, Adesanya has got that in the back pocket. I know he's not a proven wrestler, but in my opinion, he's definitely going to have the wrestling edge over an Alex Pereira. Don't know if he'll use it. Adesanya may just stay on the bicycle and kind of Floyd Mayweather his way to a unanimous decision win. Ultimately, you always got to be concerned about the Alex Pereira power. I'm going to pick Izzy, though. I think he snipes Pereira with a big shot and gets vengeance. I think this could be the best fight Adesanya has been in a long time. And this could kind of like rebuild that Adesanya hype train. We're picking Izzy to get it done over Alex Pereira and what should be an incredible main event. Minus 190 Israel Adesanya, around plus 160 for Alex Pereira. I like Izzy's chances to get the win, guys. I think he's going to get it done. I know the past few haven't been great entertainment. Win over Cannonier, dominant though. Shuts him down everywhere. Win over Whitaker, extremely competitive fight. Toss-up. Win over Vettori, clean win. And then obviously the loss up a weight class to Jan Blachowicz. The way Pereira fights, though, I do believe Adesanya could have more success. A guy like Cannonier doesn't want to get too much into a brawl with Adesanya, where Pereira will be confidently willing to engage, especially having 2 wins over this man in kickboxing previously. I think it's going to be a great matchup. It's Alex Pereira's biggest test in mixed martial arts. He gets to be on the big stage challenging for that middleweight belt. If somehow he does win, that'd be the craziest shit ever. Do they do a 4th fight between these two after? I think you'd kind of have to, because Izzy's mixed martial arts run has been nearly impeccable, especially at middleweight. I mean, he's unbeaten as far as middleweight goes. Only losses up to the former champion, Jan Blachowicz. I think Israel gets it done. I'm picking him to beat Alex Pereira in UFC 281's main event, and I cannot wait for this card. It's going to be unreal. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. Smash the hell out of the like button, and if you're new, subscribe. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of the picks. I'm very curious who you guys have in the main event, so definitely let me know. Much love, my people. If you guys are new, subscribe, turn those post notifications on, and make sure you share the video as well. And if you don't have anything to say in the comments, as always, drop a W in the chat to boost the algorithm. Much love, my people. I'll see you throughout the week. Tons of content dropping. Stay tuned. Peace, everyone, and have a great one.